Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhair-agale, Ni-hao, Jurushumme, Washwale, Ohai Genzaimus, Guten Morgen, Hola, Boyo, Privyat, Kaifahal, Haleshuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasar, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Bhalli Kareaya, Hosh Galden and Ayasayo, Huyamora, Chivato, Chihajot, Kalimera, Khairuttan, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, it's getting too cold, Hajra. I think, and not just that, I think with the viral, which is still persistent, it's just not making me feel all right. I mean, I just don't feel okay. I'm like, okay, what's happening to me? You know, why is my head hurting? Why is my, I don't want to say it early in the morning on live television. But yeah, it doesn't feel right.
Aslam alaikum, Shahzad. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jazakallah khair. Yes, it has been cold for quite some time, but we're certainly feeling the intensity of the cold as the days are passing by. But Shahzad, you've been complaining about, how your cough is not getting, I mean, yes. And I think you should try some meditation and just, say that you will get better, because I think the more you talk about it that you're not getting better, and the more you talk about it that you are feeling the intensity of the cough. So I think that might also is attracting a lot of cough, right? So try some meditation because you're already on the medication, right?
Thank you so much for saying that, because I have, something to share in
because it is said you are what you think. So your thoughts are very much important in shaping the reality, your external reality. So your inner world reflects your external reality, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because just yesterday while I was on social media, what happened was that, I came across this video and it said that, that if you need to check whether your lungs are healthy or not, what you need to do is that, just hold your breath.
Right.
And, once there was a circle of video going on, so the circle goes on and you really need to hold your breath. And, so I held my breath. And while I was holding my breath, ladies and gentlemen, so what happened was that, it came down to a point where I was like, okay, I'm getting out of breath myself. And, you know what the video said? It said that your lungs are not healthy, if you're breathing by now. And I was like, okay, what's wrong with me? So I sat up, and then I did it, and then I was fine. So yes, I think what you've actually mentioned right now.
Every morning when you wake up, the first thing you need to do is just take a deep breath and say that Allah is al-Shafi and He will give you shifa and you will feel better after it, right?
Thank you so much, Haja. I feel better already.
I think you need to change your perspective and see if the meditation works or medication works. Obviously, we cannot deny the importance of medication. But one thing, this is a news that has been trending on Twitter, and that's very important, that since you are associated with the cricketing world and you feel very passionate about the sport, there is a development, especially in the Australian cricketer Usman Khawaja. His request for displaying the symbol of dove on his bat has been rejected, and he's accused ICC of the double standards. And he said that dove is generally a sign of peace. And according to United Nations Charter on the Human Rights, according to the Article 1, it represents peace, it represents the calmness, right? And he wanted to display that as a result or as his political convictions of ending the genocide that has been going in the Gaza, and making sure that there is a humanitarian ceasefire there. And he also was wearing, I think a few days ago, a black armband as a display of his personal bereavement. And I think the rationale given by the ICC behind this entire scenario was that cricket is an apolitical event and you should not bring any political, religious, personal or social issues into it. But I do not believe in that, because according to Aristotle, a man is a political animal. How can you dissociate yourself from your political beliefs? And it's not just about dissociating yourself. What is happening, what is going around in Gaza is something that is very eye-opening. And I'm pretty sure if the situation was reversed, if he was talking about the Ukraine, ICC would not have reacted the same way as it have reacted in the case of Gaza. And this is where we see that how there's a stark contrast, there's a stark reality of how this Western-based liberal order is showing itself. And we need to have a ceasefire there. We need to have a permanent ceasefire there, because humanitarian pauses are not enough. That means that you are giving them space to kill them again.
Exactly. And just to complete this, Haja, so there's a backstory to it, and that is that, when the first test in between Pakistan and Australia started, Usman Khawaja was actually wearing shoes where there were a few lines written on the shoes as well. which actually, the media actually kind of gave it a lot of attention as well. And the gist of those lines was that all lives matter, it's about that. And so ICC kind of responded to it that you cannot certainly do that. And so Usman Khwaja actually came out on Twitter, spoke about it, that that I have not mentioned anyone in particular. So may it be Gaza, for anybody can take any understanding of that statement. He said that I have not made any statement in particular reference to somebody or some country or where the human rights violation are taking place, but it's in general wherever there are human rights violation, my voice is for them as well. So just to kind of contest that, he was wearing a black band, and then after that, now when he wanted to have that dove picture on his bat, he wasn't allowed to do so as well. And a lot of Australian cricketers and cricketers world over actually jumped into his support as well. And not just that, for all of those people who might not know, Usman Khwaja actually is from Rawalpindi.
It's from Pakistan, yes, and we can certainly infer that from his name. But we hope and pray and we see that this duplicity, these double standards, which are so much inflicted in this entire system, which we can see are removed, and we see a better world, a peaceful world, a world where we do not have to show the signs of dove in order to induce the peace. Right?
Exactly. And in addition to this, I think this is what we are talking about as well, because imagine that 2024 is just around the corner, and a lot of people out there might be thinking that, okay, this is something which I would want to do on New Year's. And there is this something which I would want people to realize. I would always want people to kind of take a good look at 2023, whether how was it for you. And what you can do is that probably if you're on TikTok, social media, all these social media platforms are actually providing you with a reel which actually shows you what you actually did in the previous year as well. And that's a better understanding to reflect upon what you want to do in a new year, which is just around the corner as well. So Hajra, let me get started with you. What do you want to achieve in 2024 and what have you achieved in 2023?
Right.
Let's simplify it.
Okay, so the year 2023 has been full of lots of learnings, lots of teachings for me, and I think life is the best teacher, as we can say. And I think I started on this spiritual journey where I'm exploring myself, because human in itself and the human heart in itself holds so much magnificence, which has yet to be unlocked, which has yet to be unveiled, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resides in your hearts, right? So that journey has been amazing, and I think in 2024 I am looking forward to my spiritual awakening a lot, and I'm looking to explore myself a lot. And this is what I feel is the biggest takeaway of the year 2023 for me, because this year was the year where I became aware of lots of my inner workings, of my inner self, of my higher self, and that has been an amazing journey for me.
And let me kind of congratulate you as well. So imagine that when Allah is actually giving somebody or blessing somebody, that certainly is through, you can check it through that, okay, that Allah will always bestow upon you an eye with which you can see that what is there that you've been doing wrong as well. And that's something, alhamdulillah, which you've achieved this year.
We all have that, but it's just that we tend to ignore it, and we ignore it so much that it becomes really, it dims a lot in the background, and we just need to enlarge it. It's there in everyone out there. So we will talk about more about,
we'll get professional, kind of impact for everybody who's out there as well. We're going to seek professional advice from this amazing gentleman who's over here. Every year, he's getting better. How? That's the question, ladies and gentlemen. We're very lucky that we've been joined by a motivational speaker. And he happens to be Mr. Asif Nazir. Hello, Aslam alaikum. Good morning. How are you feeling today, brother?
Walaikum salam. I'm absolutely fine. Wonderful.
Wow, I mean, we can see that. You look very handsome too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So, for anybody to think that, okay, main naya saal mein ye kar dunga. How is that thought, first of all?
Yeah, this thought is wonderful. As far as this thought is concerned, it's wonderful. And the good thing is that if you go out and ask people randomly, conduct a survey and ask people, 100 people ask, what do you want to achieve? And everybody would say, I want to achieve something big. But if you ask what specific you want to achieve, nobody would answer that. Yeah. So as far as the dreams are concerned, it's good to have the big dreams, you need to look far, but the fact is that you need to be specific as well. Shazad, what happens is that why people, means everybody wants to have, because being this is our a built-in characteristic that we want to achieve something big, because we are the prime and a very unique product of Almighty Allah, and we are here to do something very special and to achieve big things. But the fact is that we are not focused. We want to achieve something big, but we are not specific. As Hajra mentioned, that means I did these things in the last year and I have these plans. But you know, of course would have, you know, more specific plans, but usually we develop our plans like this. I want to do this, but we do not, you know, actually specify those. And if your objectives are not time bound, if you're not realistic, and if your objectives are not smart, you cannot achieve that. And you know, as per survey, majority of the peoples, why they cannot you know, achieve their objective, that they do not write down their objectives.
Okay.
And if you do not write down your objectives, there is possibility that, and research says that after 1 month you are, you know, make changes in those objectives, because something is going on in your head but you do not have the written downs. And second very important thing is that when you do not have the written objectives, you cannot divide those objectives on a single day. For example, if you want to lose 20 kg weight in 2024, majority of the people, they have these, you know, health related objectives. But if you do not know how much you need to, you know, work out on a single day, you cannot achieve that.
Yeah.
If you want to read out like 20 books or 10 books in a year, but you need to know that how much time you
10
need
pages a
to
day.
invest
Yeah.
on a single day. So this is very important.
Thank you so much for saying that. And you know, me and Haja, we've always been advocating about it as well, that people only need to know how to break down bigger goals into smaller goals, and that's one thing which we have been talking about as well. Now, when we talk about goals, see, goals will always vary. People who are single, people who are working, people who are businessmen, people who are married. Now, imagine if you're saying that if we write things, you know, that can actually help you achieve your goal. Why do you think those couples are not able to achieve it? Is it because of the fact that they're not writing their goals? Because no matter what happens, whenever, you know, me and my wife, we end up arguing something, and we are like, okay, now, you know, we're going to be a better couple, and, you know, we will make sure that we're not going to argue. And, you know, please make sure that, you know, when your family members are, you know, over here, please make sure that you do not embarrass me. And then, you know, whenever you're around my family members, please don't embarrass me. We're like, okay, we're not going to do that. But the next day we're doing the same thing. So how can we have more realistic goals? Do you think as couples, we need to write down our
Shehzad,
goals?
this is very important, to be very honest, because usually in our, you know, setup, we do not pay that much attention to our relationship, and especially wife, in some cases wife, and now, you know, the husbands are, you know, taking for granted, you know. But
Husbands
this,
are being taken for granted. I love this conversation. I leave in the morning.
but the fact of the matter is that this
But
relationship.
why would you say that? Have you been through that
Yes,
yourself?
yeah,
Unfortunately?
having the
I think
same,
everybody goes through that.
you know, having the same experience.
Yeah.
So it's very important to sit down with your partner, because this is something very important. Because if there is a problem going on, rift going on, discussion going on, means if the positive, it's the part of the game that discussion.
Maximum zindagi to rift mein guzar.
हाँ, rift में गुजरती है. But this is very important. You did the right thing, that sit down and, you know, devise your lines. This is your line, this is my line, and you need to be even more specific.
Okay.
Right.
So this is the part, that this is the way forward, that you need to write down all these things, sit with your partner and decide all those even fine lines, small minor things, and then gradually things will get better. Doesn't matter that if in 1 or 2 occasions it doesn't work, but gradually it will get better.
Right, and I think journaling has always been very cathartic activity for me, because I'm able to jot down a lot of train of thoughts and a lot of things that I did not knew I'm feeling inside. Journaling always helps me in that. But obviously motivation is linked to your inner calling. So how do you find your inner calling as a person? Or how do you find or develop a motivation inside you?
And before you do that, Hajar, why don't you enjoy our humor, first of all? I think that's a
Yeah,
very-
I mean, all the time you are bashing, you know,
No, we're
just
not
wife,
bashing.
and why should I
Equally,
enjoy
equally.
it?
I said equally, you know, made be the husband or made be the
Haan,
wife. I
haan,
never
both
said
are
But
Right,
your
both are
focus was more on the husband's thing. Yeah,
Nah,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
That's a
Means
previous
that's why I
position.
mentioned that like 10 years back when we used to see our father and mother, means
Yeah.
our father used to have the upper hand, but now if we look at ourselves, even father
Ab
used
to
to
keh
say
rahe ho,
that,
hamare.
kya kar rahe ho?
Yeah, please, inner calling.
Okay.
So I don't know what you were, you know, it was so interesting.
Okay. So I talked about the inner calling. You know, how do you develop that inner calling, or how do you find that you have an inner calling in the first place?
Means if you're just talking about in perspective of the new year, it's very important to see,
Self-reflection.
you know, that how do you see and perceive the things, and especially when we talk about the new year, how you take this. For example, if you take this new year as a package of the problems, that this new year we know that there will be financial problems, inflation, you know, things around the world will, you know, get worse. So if you consider this year as the package of the problems, things will not get better for you. But all you have to say is to stay in a positive frame of mind, and how you see that this new year is going to bring so many blessings, so many opportunities, so much of the pain, challenges, happiness, and so much of the wealth. And the example is what? It's not just a bookish thing. In 2023, it was a very challenging year in Pakistan. And you know what happened? So many individuals, organizations, big, the people and the groups, they have grown up tremendously. And that's why overall the growth is slightly like 2% growth, because of so many industries and the people and the hundreds of the thousands of people, they have grown positively in this environment when every activity, sounds apparently negative. Even then, so similarly in 2024, there would be people, those who will consider and take it positive, they'll have the positive outcomes, and those who will think that no, this year is going to bring so many problems, of course there would be in so many problems. So it's important to enter this brand new year with the very positive mindset.
And
Right,
there's something,
and I think we need to focus on one of the very important element, because Shahzad and I have spoken on it before on our shows, which is the emotion of pain, right? And like you alluded to the fact that people have gone through financial pains and social pains, and I mean everyone experiences pain and pleasure in their life, right? And this is how life works. But do you believe that pain can be a force of a positive change, because it is a way of a body's way of protecting us and of telling us that there's something wrong? But a lot of people do not go through this mindset that pain can always be a positive change, a positive force in our body. So how do you think we need to take the pain?
because when you're in a process, obviously there will be pain somewhere, and you really need to kind of feel the brunt of it to kind of surpass it, and then kind of build upon it.
Right.
Shahzad, if you just look at and study the pain is a part of our defense mechanism.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So where there's a pain, there's a problem. So it's indicating some problem, that there is some problem going on. Address that before it's get bigger and more problem for you. So, and they say that there are two kind of pains. The pain of discipline.
Yep.
You work out, you read, you put in more efforts, everything, and the pain of regret. So the pain of regret is, something mighty. So when you are in a process, you have to this, and Allah has, created this world in a way that where there is a pain, there is a pleasure. There is a happiness.
Yes.
Pain and happiness, they, go together. So if you try to avoid the pain of discipline, so then you have to face this pain of regret.
The challenges,
So
yeah.
this is very important, that you have to go through this pain. The more you have this pain of discipline, the more you as a person, as a professional, you get better in your life.
And it's always the pain of discipline. Thank you so much, Haja, for bringing us to that, and thank you so much for, coming out with these wise words, because it's always the pain of discipline which defines your journey, which defines whether how successful you will be in life. And people who've gone through that process, ladies and gentlemen, are actually on top as well as of now. But very quickly, this is a very personal feeling, and I'm sharing it with my viewers, because this is something which I felt ever since the interim setup took over in the country. I see that there's more calmness. I see that there's no arguments on television. I see that there are no people fighting over something or an issue as well. And this is something which has actually kind of made me feel that, okay, yaar, bada अच्छा माहौल है आजकल हमारे मुल्क के अंदर, and this is something which I've loved ever since that the interim setup has been going on, alhamdulillah. And this kind of pushes me to kind of think more good about myself rather than focusing on what the news channels are saying. I'm like, okay, yaar, itna sukoon hai, let's focus on myself. These are the things and these are the areas that we need to work out. Now, the reason being why I'm saying so is that there are so many distractions out there. When we sit down with friends, rather than talking about what we want to do or what we want to achieve in life, we end up talking about politics in the country, and that has been a bigger part of the culture these days, unfortunately. How do you think that we can get rid of these distractions? Because no matter what happens, I think more about news and all of that, it's more on cell phones these days. Entertainment's more on television, things like that. And cell phone is that one thing which you watch most of the time nowadays as well. How do we get rid of the distractions?
When we are planning New Year, we have always to-do list. And so many people, they talk about the to-do list, that these are the things we have to take care of: our professional life, our personal development, our social things, our religious matters. And one thing I would add before getting to your question is that in this year, when we are planning so many things for ourselves, for our family, for our kids and everything, in this year, yesterday I was reading an article that in Pakistan now the poverty is more than 39%, means literally every second person is having this, going through this poverty problem. and it's, you know, the second highest after Afghanistan. Just imagine. So when we are planning so many things for ourselves, for our kids, our family this year, we need to plan for other people as well. People around you, people at workplace, in our society, in our family, in our mohalla street, because they are the part of our family and they will have direct impact on our families as well. So this is very important. And the second thing which you mentioned was what?
Distractions.
Distractions. Distractions will remain the part of our, our life. And when we are planning for a to-do list, as I mentioned, these kind of plannings, at the same time, we need to plan not to do things. The habits we need to get rid of. And one of the biggest distraction we have is social media.
Yeah.
So means
was about to
social,
ask that,
and
yeah.
averagely means 4 to 5 hours on an average we are spending on this. And do you know what it means?
I think
It
that's a
We're
very
means-
not doing the right
optimistic-
thing.
No, it means that in a life of 60 years, we are spending 15 years just watching this mobile phone and playing on
I
mobile
think
phone.
that's a very
15
optimistic
years.
reading, because I do believe that out of 60 years, we are spending 50 years on the social media because the consumption
15
is-
years.
Yeah.
No, 50 years.
I think
Yeah.
it's more than that. But you know, the point over here, which we really need to talk about, is that imagine that while you're spending your time on social media and looking at people's posts and what they're doing, there's somebody doing the work which is needful. And when they do the needful, that's when they reach towards the steps of success as well, alhamdulillah. So, you know, this is for a better understanding. But very quickly, one more thing towards the end, second last thing, okay, and that is that most of the times what happens is that, you know, people, alhamdulillah, like you know, you're on social media. For motivational speakers
Yeah.
are huge on social media these days. Everybody follow you and whatnot, which is why, you know, we consume a lot of social media because of you. But while we talk about it, you know, there are certain values, there are certain norms, there are certain characteristics which you build when you come into professional life, and you know, there's a family life, and you know, when you grow up. So what happens is that you always want to abide by those values and morals and whatnot. But there will always be a time, a friend, a situation, a circumstance that you will see all of those values and, you know, whatever morals you have crumble down to the floor, just because of the fact that there was this one friend who didn't wanted you to go back home. You stood up the entire night. You had a morning show to do. You couldn't do it, right? How do you think that people can recover from that? Because most of the time there are people who are unable to say no to other people, and that's something which is not very liked within our own culture. Even my friends now complain about it most of the time. How do you think that we can be polite to say no?
Oh, yes, that's a big question.
Saying no is an art, so we need to learn that. But the fact of the matter is that if you're talking about all those values we have been taught, and you know, we are talking about, means look, we are human beings. We have our loopholes. We commit mistakes. So we can't, you know, abide by those values, you know, all the time. So sometimes we deviate from the standard, so that's okay. Again, we need to get better. And as you're
But do you
mentioning
think that
about,
we need to change those friends? Now imagine that a friend of mine says, "यार जानी सुबह छुट्टी कर ली ना, क्या हो गया जानी? आज मैं लाहौर से आया हूँ, तो मेरे से बैठता क्यों नहीं?" बंदा कहे, "यार."
but you can do it for Johnny once once a
Not
year.
even once.
but you can't do it.
How can you not show up at work, and who is that friend of yours who's actually telling you to skip work? I
Right.
mean, your existence is in this world.
You're
at
in the
least.
bad
Yeah.
company, that means, of course, you
Yeah,
need to
so,
change.
so of course, for your growth, you need to
You need to
have
remove
actually
those Johnnies,
more
right?
more
And
more
make sure that
positive
you have a
people.
wife as a Johnny, right?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
And you have to marry the Johnny. It's very important.
Right, and now let's talk also about, because we are really short on the time, about the importance of self-love, and when we talk about motivation, because obviously it is directly linked with that, right? I do see a lot of people who do not have a very good relationship with their selves, right? They're really hard on themselves, and they're often cursing themselves, and there's a very strong inner critic in themselves which is always telling them, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that, you're not sufficient. How do we harbor more self-love and love ourselves in a more healthier sort of a way?
And it's an amazing question, because you know, I go through this myself as well. If I unfortunately, if those values crumble in front of me, the way I punish myself is something which is very harsh, you know. So I'm like, मतलब अब मैं वो अल्फाज भी नहीं इस्तेमाल कर सकता, how I actually kind of scold myself. That, do you think that it really needs to be in a healthy way, or do you think it's fine just like this?
Let me
अपने
tell
साथ ही
you,
गुस्सा हो जाता हूँ, तो यार क्या करूं?
those people who are more career oriented, those people who having, you know, the bigger objectives in their life, they're more sensitive about these things. So of course, when they made certain deviations, they have these problems. And as you mentioned about the self-love, it's very important. Actually, there are two things. One is that if means self-love is something that, as I mentioned, that if you're a career-oriented person and based on certain values, of course you have some achievement in your life, and based on that you love yourself, based on your accomplishments, the accolades you have in your life. But give yourself some margin. It does not mean that all the time you criticize yourself, that ideally I should do this, and what happens is that we are in a world that where we compare ourselves with other people, and we see that my friend is have more money, and he has got the better
oh my
car,
God.
and so these are the things which make us actually think negative about ourselves.
Comparisons,
Generally, those people, as Shehzad mentioned, that those having higher objectives in their life, of course they have some standards, and they criticize oneself if they deviate. But that's the part of the game. So give some margin in case of Jani.
And to end this conversation, so on this note, we're talking about self-love. So imagine, this is a personal experience that I'm sharing. I don't know, my wife's going to hate me for this as well, and we have to go to a wedding right after the show. But imagine, so what happened was, for the last, alhamdulillah, 12 years that I've been married, alhamdulillah, there were responsibilities, school fees and whatnot. Shukr, alhamdulillah.
Making
And
a
every time, so I would always be amongst friends, where there are branded clothes and expensive watches and whatnot. Alhamdulillah, I never felt the need of it. But I told myself ever since the beginning of my career that once, inshallah, when I'll be able to do it, I'll do it. So just very recently I went to Dubai, and I was able to do it, alhamdulillah. And I bought some branded stuff for myself, right? So when I brought that branded stuff back home, not that I didn't do it for the family. For all these 12 years, I was doing it for the family, right? Wherever I was going. So this 1 year, I brought stuff myself, and my wife told me, you didn't get anything for us. And I was like, yeah, this one time I brought it for myself. It's an issue. What should we do about it?
You need to bring chocolates for us, because you reminded me of something, right?
Actually, Shehzad, you're such a caring person that all the time you take care of your family. So now they have very high expectations from you. So keep on working.
Thank you
so
so
sometimes
much.
you need to be very smart that taking care of yourself is equally important.
Thank you so much for saying that as well. And for all of those youngsters who are out there, who will be soon the part of the professional careers and whatnot, how do you want them to start their new year, for a country like Pakistan, where it needs its nation the most as of now when we speak of it, where we do know so many people have actually gone abroad. There's a lot of brain drain going on. What do you think that the Naujawan of Pakistan needs to think today?
Well, for message for the Naujawan is that still in Pakistan, as I mentioned earlier, that even if you see this current year, so many people in the jobs, in the business, in the different positions, they have grown tremendously, alhamdulillah. So still Pakistan is a big nation. There are so many opportunities. So all you have to, again, I would say that you need to start this area with the positive mindset that still we have got so many opportunities, and you can do a lot. One very important thing is that you need to lock your destiny. You need to lock your direction. If your direction is okay, then you can build the pace with the passage of time. It doesn't matter if you're moving at, if you know that my destination is Lahore, so as you're moving to Lahore to attend the wedding?
No, over here in Islamabad.
So if your direction, your direction is Lahore, so it doesn't matter, 50, 60, gradually you build up the pace. But if your direction is Lahore and you are moving towards Peshawar, so you'll end up in Peshawar. Doesn't matter the pace. So for them, the important thing is that we have got so many opportunities. It's a fertile land, and lock your destiny. Inshallah, you'll be the future, and you'll shine like anything.
Wow,
inshallah.
that's wonderful.
Right. Thank you so much for saying so much wise words and shedding light on what's our future 2024 year will look like, and how to develop motivation in that. With that, we will say thank you so much for coming here,
Thank you
for being in our studio. And when we come back, we have some interesting discussion lined up, and we will explore how the entertainment can be a very powerful medium for the social net.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned to PTV Ball. You're watching World this morning. Earlier, we were talking about, some New Year resolutions and goals and what people need to do, and what I've taken away from it. Well, you certainly need to write down your bigger goals, then you jot down into smaller goals, and make sure that every single day you're working in that direction. Not
And make sure you're also living in the present moment, right?
Alhamdulillah, that's really important. But for people, who are successful in life, there is a reason behind that. The way they think, the way they work, the way their work ethic is, that's something which actually kind of makes them very distinctive amongst other people. May it be 100 people, may it be 1 million people. And such is an example of our guest who's over here inside the studios with us, who happens to be an award-winning scriptwriter, playwright, producer, RJ. When we talk about the field of entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, he's actually given us so many amazing dramas and theatres that we cannot even imagine. We're very lucky that we have been joined by the maestro and the legendary Muhammad Aslam Mughal Sahab. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much. This is pleasure for me this morning. Very good.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
If I'm feel fear, if I wrong English, the Gora come back in subcontinent.
So that's not a problem. See, that's not a problem. The best part is that we are over here, that we are celebrating our heroes. May it be any language, it does not matter to us.
बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने मेरी इज़्ज़त अफ़ज़ाई की, बहुत शुक्रिया.
Thank you so much.
आप जिए हज़ारों साल, तो बहुत खुशी हुई.
Jazakallah, sir. Sir, thank you so much. And you know, for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we always give out this message that, this platform is to kind of celebrate our legends, our heroes, so that we bring to you, the kind of work that they have produced and done, so that each and every child in future generations would actually know how much they've contributed. So, sir, let's get started. First of all, today you came back to Pakistan television after a long, long time.
Oh, yes.
You've worked for over 40 years for Pakistan television.
Yes,
You've written dramas.
फील किया मैंने क्योंकि एक वक्त गुजरा है यहाँ पे. मतलब माजी में इसकी दीवारों से हमें बहुत मोहब्बत है. ये मेरा घर है, तो यहाँ पे हमने बहुत काम किया, बहुत से सीरियल भी किए, यहाँ से बहुत से सिंगल प्लेस किए, यहीं से सीखा सब कुछ. तो अभी मैं जब एंटर हुआ इसकी बिल्डिंग में, तो मेरी आंखों में आंसू बस आने ही वाले थे कि मैं जैसे पता नहीं कुछ जैसे बिछड़ा हुआ कोई शख्स एक अरसे बाद अपने घर में दाखिल होता है.
क्या बात है, माशाल्लाह.
तो ये मेरी फीलिंग थी कि यहाँ उस वक्त सिंगल चैनल था, सिंगल चैनल लोग जो देखते थे बहुत ज़्यादा. तो आजकल तो चैनल्स बहुत ज़्यादा हैं.
True.
तो उसमें तलाश करना जो है ना
मुश्किल है.
आर्टिस्ट की जो है ना पहले दौड़ होती थी,
जी.
अब चैनल्स की दौड़ है.
True.
ठीक है.
That's true. And these are wise words by Muhammad Aslam Mughal Sahab. What he's saying is that now after serving for 40 years or more than that, Pakistan television, when he came to the building, he actually had tears in his eyes, thinking of how obviously it was nostalgia. And I think that the most important aspect of his conversation is that he's saying that back then, there was always a competitiveness amongst the people who were being on television
artists,
or who were appearing on television, because there was only one channel, Pakistan television. Now there are more channels, and he finds that might be a reason of people not performing really very well. Is that the case?
Right. I think that's very true, and thank you so much for very succinctly translating what our legendary artist here is saying that. And lots of people who come here after such a long time, they do feel lots of nostalgia, and we can certainly see in his eyes that he's very teary-eyed because there's so many memories that came rushing back to him as an artist who has worked for so long in the PTV, and this buildings hold so many memories. I think every corner has a story to tell. Every studio has some tale which unfolds before us, and I think we are very glad that we are working here.
Exactly.
So,
and to talk about it, sir, now what we really need to do is that we need to draw a comparison in between the kind of dramas which are being written today and the kind of dramas that you have done. So I still remember that there was this one theatre play, Nanne Haath, which was about child labor as well. We do have clips and we will be sharing with our audiences. Please take us through.
नन्हे हाथ और वो थिएटर प्लेस थे, और नन्हे हाथ को अगेंस्ट टू चाइल्ड लेबर. जैसे पाकिस्तान जो हमारा मुल्क चाइल्ड लेबर में दूसरे नंबर पर है, तो उसके साथ ये कि थिएटर में काम किया, पाकिस्तान नेशनल काउंसिल ऑफ आर्ट से आगाज़ किया. तो टेलीविज़न में फिर आगे टेलीविज़न में आकर फिर जो उर्दू ड्रामास हैं वो किए, पंजाबी भी किए, रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस के, जिनके नाम आप ले रहे हैं वो थिएटर प्लेस हैं.
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही, and which is why I even mentioned that these are theatre plays, and these clips, ladies and gentlemen, of the theatre play actually are from Nanne Haath as well, which is against child labour. Pakistan back then used to be at number 2 as well. We've worked quite a lot on child labour and to kind of eradicate that menace over here. So there's this gentleman who actually wants the children to work for him, so he gives them some tools, may it be a hammer or something other than that, and this lady comes in and kind of tries to convince the gentleman that that the kids really need to go to school and they'll be very happy about it. So then from here onwards you moved on, talking more about theatre plays and plays as well, you moved on towards Siyasi Chaudhary. Now, I think that's still a very relevant thing over here in the country. We do have a lot of Siyasi Chaudharys these
lot
days.
of Siyasi Chaudharys in
True.
our countries.
Right.
True.
So what was the theme about it? Yes, go ahead.
सियासी चौधरी
Yes.
Yeah.
सियासी चौधरी बेसिकली एक तंज़ मज़ाक की है प्रोग्राम्स में सियासी चौधरी का टाइटल मैं खुद ही कर रहा हूँ
Mashallah.
तो उसमें डिफरेंट चीज़ें हैं जो हमारे सोशल इश्यूज़ हैं
Yeah.
उन पर बहस होती है और ये कि उसमें किसी ख़ास पार्टी के अगेंस्ट भी नहीं है और किसी की हमायत में भी नहीं है ओवरऑल जनरली हम बात
प्यार
करते
से
हैं
जैसे समझाया जाता है.
जी प्यार से जैसे सबकी लगाई जाती है
बिल्कुल.
तो उस अंदाज में ये है कि जो हमारे इश्यूज़ हैं जो हमारी पब्लिक की जो उनको बताने वाली बातें हैं कि भाई आपने शख्सियत परस्ती नहीं होनी चाहिए
True.
और बरादरी परस्ती भी नहीं होनी चाहिए और ये कि आपको सिर्फ अपनी नेशन से अपने मुल्क से प्यार होना चाहिए.
क्या बात.
दूसरी बात यह कि आप ऐसे शख्स को आप इलेक्ट करें जो आपके लिए बेहतर हो जो बहसीत मैन इंसान बहुत अच्छा हो तो उसमें ये चीज़ें हम उसमें करते हैं.
And, you know, people who are actually watching these clips are actually from Siyasi Chaudhary, where once again it served a purpose of a public service message on different occasions, you know. So
And I think PTV's drama reflect that legacy because they are filled with satire.
Sabzi
They
mein
do
shoot hua
have the
bhai.
humor and they reflect the social issues because a few days back we were talking about the legendary drama of PTV and Andhera Ujala, and I think that kind of reflected the same message, which was about how there are social evils that are lurking in our society that needs to be addressed. And this drama, Siyasi Chaudhary or theatre play, was exactly about it, that they did not particularly target any political party, but they were generally recounting what are our political issues, what are our social issues, and how we need to do that. And one thing that reigns supreme, and that was beautifully summed up by our legendary artist here, is that we should always think about a nation first, and national interest should reign supreme over your personal interest, right?
exactly. And in addition to this, Haja, you know, what I would like to kind of talk about over here is because right at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that back then there was only one channel, so there was, you know, a lot of competition in between writers and actors and everybody who was going to be on screen. So for you, you know, first of all, because you've won, alhamdulillah, 2 awards back in 1998, then in 2002, and that too from that only one channel which existed back then.
Alhamdulillah.
What do you think that you were doing differently that your work was loved the most by the entire nation?
आप कह रहे हैं कि पहले और आज के में फ़र्क
मैं
जो
सर
है।
एक तो वो भी कह रहा हूँ कि पहले और आज में क्या फ़र्क था और दूसरा मैं ये कहता हूँ कि जब दौड़ थी और फनकारों की भी दौड़ थी, अदाकारों की भी
Yes,
थी, लिखने वालों की भी थी, तो आपके ही प्लेस जो है वो क्यों सिलेक्ट होते थे?
इसमें बात ये है कि पहले जो है ना वो स्क्रिप्ट जो है फर्स्ट स्क्रिप्ट होता है किसी भी ड्रामे में जो उसकी बेस है वो स्क्रिप्ट है तो स्क्रिप्ट बुनियादी चीज़ है उसमें पहले होते थे इश्यूज़ के ऊपर बातें होती थी. आजकल ड्रामे की एक बहुत भरमार है हर चैनल पे ड्रामे इतने वो क्या कहते हैं एक लफ्ज़ है ना थोक के हिसाब से ड्रामों का जुमा बाज़ार बल्कि मीना बाज़ार लगा हुआ.
That's true.
तो उसमें आपको आर्ट यानी कि वो उसमें क्वांटिटी है क्वालिटी जो है वो कम है. जब किसी चीज़ की क्वांटिटी ज़्यादा हो जाए तो क्वालिटी की तरफ फिर इंटेंशन कम हो जाती है. तो ऐसे ही हो रहा है कि इस वक्त जो है वो ज़्यादातर जो ड्रामा है वो कमर्शलाइज हो चुका है. होना चाहिए ये मजबूरी है प्राइवेट चैनल्स की भी मजबूरी है सबकी कि उन्होंने मतलब कि उसको बिजनेस करना है या अपने एक्सपेंडिचर्स को करना है सारा. लेकिन इस हद तक भी नहीं कि आर्ट गायब हो जाए उसमें से. आर्ट गायब नहीं होना चाहिए. आप एक आर्टिस्ट को जैसे माजी की अभी हम बात करते हैं या पीटीवी को देख लें. पीटीवी का एक रिकॉर्ड है एक सिंगल चैनल था उस वक्त और पंजाबी कल्ला ही शेर था. तो उस वक्त आप देखें कैसे कैसे राइटर थे आज भी हैं हम नहीं कहते आज नहीं है. शफाक अहमद अमजद सलाम अमजद फारूक कैसर उसका अतर शाह जेदी अच्छा जी हसीना मोइन बहुत से बानो कुदसिया. तो इतने बड़े ज़बरदस्त वो लोग थे. ऐसा होता था हमने देखा 86 या 84 की बात है जब एक प्ले पीटीवी से चलता था वारस जिसका ये आलम था कि मार्केट बंद हो जाती थी यानी शॉप सारी बंद हो जाती थी और लोग जाकर अपने टीवी के सामने बैठ जाते थे और वो उस ड्रामे को देखते थे. उसके अलावा और बहुत अंधेरा उजाला बेशुमार पीटीवी का एक रिकॉर्ड है एक हिस्ट्री है पीटीवी की. तो
exactly. And for everybody out there, sir, you know, we'll have to translate for our English audiences as well, you know, so Sir was very on point, so, you know, so what Sir was trying to say is that, you know, when quantity actually comes into business as well, obviously it kind of dents the quality as well, and, you know, the art really needs to be a part of it, because this is all a work of art, you know, all of these cameramen, the writers, you know, the presenters, the actors, everybody has to do their job, you know, in a way where it actually is presented as an art form. And that somewhere down the line we have seen that, you know, is kind of the missing element as well. And most of the time, I think dramas now focus on what, because sir, I believe certainly it actually kind of gives birth to another question. What I believe is that it's because of what the people are consuming. You know, it's not, I think that the mistake of the channels itself or the private channels or any channel for that matter, or for that say, but we have to see over here, and I'm very sorry, I'll have to mention it over here. Unfortunately, even the dramas now, what Pakistan television used to produce are not really up to this scale or up to the mark. People would rather prefer, because I see that there's more art in dramas within the private channels rather than now what Pakistan television is producing. Unfortunately, I have to be honest. Please.
जी पीटीवी में भी ये कि अभी बहुत सी चीज़ों की ज़रूरत है। पीटीवी में भी वैसा जो है राइटर्स को बुलाना चाहिए, बहुत से नए राइटर्स को। हम नहीं कहते कि आप पुराने कहाँ से आएंगे।
True.
तो वो तो बहुत सारे
क्यों नहीं आ सकते सर, आप आए ना।
नहीं, मैं तो आ गया हूँ, चले अभी मैं जिंदा हूँ तो आ गया हूँ।
अल्लाह आपको सेहत दे।
तो बाकी जो है नए भी, यानी कि दौर बदलता रहता है, वो पुराना दौर ख़त्म हो चुका है, मगर ये कि उनको वो वाली चीज़ें भी दिखानी चाहिए, वो बताना चाहिए कि ये क्या था, प्लेस कैसे होते थे। तो उसमें मैं वही बात करूँगा कि जो जैसे मैंने शुरू में की, कमर्शलाइज जब चीज़ें हो जाती हैं ना, तो फिर वो चीज़ हट जाती है जो असल है। तो एक चीज़ ये है कि इसमें मिसकास्टिंग होती है आजकल बहुत ज़्यादा, बहुत सी जगहों पे मिसकास्टिंग। जहाँ आप किसी को ओबलाइज कर रहे हैं, आप उसका ऑडिशन ख़त्म हो चुका है। बहुत से ऐसे लोग जिनको हार्डवेयर में होना चाहिए, वो सॉफ्टवेयर में आए हुए। तो वो ये बात मैं ऐसे कर रहा हूँ,
मैनेज हो रहे हैं।
जी मैनेज हो रहे हैं। जब आप इस तरह की काम करेंगे, आप वो, मुझे एक लतीफ़ा याद आ गया
सर।
तो एक सरदार साहब को कोई बंदे फैंटी लगा रहे थे, वो आगे से हंस रहे। तो कहते सरदार जी ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ फैंटी ला रहे हो, तुम हंस रहे हो। कहते जिन्हें समझ के मारदा पे मैं वो बंदा ही नहीं।
तो सरदार जी हंस रहे हैं।
Right, and for those who are English watching audiences, sir was very on point when he said about that there are lots of problems that we are now facing in terms of our drama content, the quality of the content, and that is why we always reminiscence about the golden legacy of the PTV dramas. And I think the most important problem that is that there's a lot of miscasting that is happening nowadays, and miscasting is usually the results of if you have to oblige someone, right? But I do feel that PTV is making some effort, because there are some good quality dramas that are being produced with the local cast, with the local talent is being given voice, or they are giving a platform to showcase their art. And inshallah, in the days to come, we will see things will get better and things will happen, right? And obviously, he also talked about that how the concept of audition is almost getting extinct now, because
and
again,
even the Hollywood actors, do you know when there is a film, you know, even the Hollywood actors will get a call for auditions, you know, so no matter what happens, every actor who's actually in the film will come after an audition, after a successful audition.
That's very true. Thank you so much for pointing it out. And I think this is where we are lagging, and this is where we need to work upon it. And I think PTV can also generally tap into that nostalgia market, because if they started showing the old content, the old dramas out there, because I don't see many humorous content out there on our dramas, right? And after so much, I mean, the brouhaha and the cry and the doom and gloom which is going around in the world, I just want to see some content which makes me laugh, or which is a satire, or which is a humor, and you hardly see any such content on the TV. So
and the best example, Hajra, happens to be, you know, now when we see all the Punjabi theatre artists, you know, they're so big all over the world. They're featuring in almost every sort of cinema, you know. So whenever you talk about Iftikhar Thakur Sahab, whenever you talk about Salim Al-Bella, whenever you talk about anybody, they're everywhere. And for any program to be successful, alhamdulillah, they have to be a part of that program to make it successful.
And their presence shows that we do not have enough humor in our content, right? And if we can bring into that, I think that will be an amazing addition to our content out there, right? And with that, we will say thank you so much to sir.
And very quickly, you know, sir, towards the end, just one small thing, we actually want to share some visuals, and we would want you to, you know, kind of share what your emotions and experiences were back then when you actually were, you know, on this stage, and that you were receiving, you know, for us, you know, it's, and, you know, we're sharing your awards as well. There's so many of them that we might not be able to kind of fit in over here, but please go ahead, you know, so much work that you've done now, alhamdulillah.
ये बहुत शुक्रिया। ये मुझे फ़ख्र और बहुत खुशी है कि इस सेंटर ने मुझे बहुत इज़्ज़त दी है। और लास्ट में बात तो एक ही करूँगा
जी सर,
कि वो लोग कहते हैं ना कि आप दूसरों का ख्याल रखें, मैं कहता हूँ कि आप अपना ख्याल रखें, ये कहती है ना कि अपना ख्याल रखें।
Right.
मेरा ये मैसेज है कि दूसरों का भी ख्याल रखें।
दूसरे का ख्याल रखें। Thank you so much sir for being with us. Lovely to have you over here. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourself. दूसरों का ख्याल रखें. Good morning.